Greetings and salutations, this is Imperator Vespasian and his trusty sidekick.
Hello.
Today we're bringing you Mede infantry for our Persian army. The Medes are the mainstay of the Persian army, really. When the Persians started off, the Medes were sort of relatively conquered or allied troops, and pretty soon Media took over the Persian Empire, pretty much. The figures are made from Dark Age warriors with the heads are house cows with the top of the house cow helmet cut off and a bit of milliput put on to make it look like a sort of headscarf the Persians used to wear. The shields are from the Steppe Warriors box. So the large body shield is from the Steppe Warriors box. Each soldier is equipped with a bow and a quiver, and the bow and the quiver also come from the Steppe Warriors box. And all troops are armed with an axe, and the axe comes from the Dark Age Warriors box. Oh, the Viking box, I think, actually. Yeah, lots of spare axes in the Viking box. So, what do you want to know about Medes?
Well, you saw the history behind them, don't we?
Well, they were the mainstay of the Persian army, the rank and file of the Persians. These are the sort of regular troops you would get. They would work alongside the skirmish troops we previously did a video on, and the Takabara as well. The Takabara and the Immortals. But these would be the mainstay. Every soldier carried either a large shield, the large body shield, or the figure of 8 shield. Usually the troops with a large shield would stand in the front line to prevent them from fire. To prevent them from arrow fire and stuff like that. And then the lighter shield troops would stand in the next rank, and then the rank behind would use their bows to fire over the heads of their troops. That's generally how it was supposed to work.
And did it work like
that? Yes and no. They weren't really equipped to fight Greeks, really, and yeah, it wasn't a good time for them. The shield was made of wicker. Some had light wooden shields, probably not that much good, but mostly wicker on a wicker frame with wicker sewn in, usually with some form of animal hide over the top. If they were better troops like the Immortals, they would paint their shields so they would look nice and scary and stuff. But you're up against Greeks.
Yeah.
The Medes generally won with weight of numbers. During the battle with the 300 Spartans, usually what the Persians would do is they would send in their light infantry first to soften up the enemy, sort of throw spears at them and stuff. They would then send in their cavalry to throw javelins and scare the enemy. And then finally they would send in the Medes. And the Medes theoretically would seriously wear down the enemy, ready for the Immortals to step forward and fight. What Xerxes did wrong, he sent his Medes in first, and they got absolutely slaughtered because the Greeks hadn't fought at all before. They were fully rested, they were fully ready, they hadn't been harried all day by skirmish troops, and the Medes tried to go straight in at them one to one, and also they didn't go in normal formation, which is where you have your shield in the front rank and this guy here, and then you have the next two using their bows. That's usually how you fight. Instead, they just charged in. So they would have charged in, they would have dropped their large shields because they were too heavy to carry, and they would have simply used these shields or the no shield at all, and they went in and just tried to throw themselves at the Greeks, and the Greeks absolutely butchered them.
I can see why it would work though.
Well, it would work.
Get a lot of body mass on one shield.
Yeah.
The shield goes down, you just swarm in.
Well, your problem is the Persians just weren't really equipped. If the Persians try and go in with the spear, they didn't have the Medes didn't have the spear with the apple on the end or the orange, whatever the spear I've already talked about. Instead, they used a slightly shorter spear, probably between six. I reckon about 6 feet would be about the length of the average Persian spear. Certainly in depictions of Medes against Greeks, which they aren't a huge amount, it just shows the Medes have tiny, tiny spears, and the Greeks are showed with very, very long spears. Although again, they could also be javelins, so we're not really sure. But yeah, the Greeks would be able to stab them long before, well, 2 feet before they could actually get within range to attack the Greeks. The Greek spear would go straight through, the doorway would go straight through their shield. And it was just a bad time, really. These guys, although they were competent troops, most of them would have been professional soldiers. So they'd actually done this job for a living, but mostly they'd be guards and relative sort of subordinates to the immortals who would act as policemen. And so they would sort of be local garrison troops. So although they were professional, they just weren't up to scratch with, say, the immortal troops in the Persian army, and they certainly weren't up to scratch with against the Greeks. Or the Egyptians, for that matter. The Egyptians did quite well against them.
It was more of them. You're not going to win.
I don't know, the Egyptians just had slightly better training, I think. I think they had a lot better training. And of course the Egyptians were equipped with the axe. An axe that was much more efficient in combat than the axe that the Sagaris that these guys carried. These guys carried the Sagaris axe, which is that little red axe you see on the back of that guy there. It tended to have a very small head and not a very long reach, so it was a bit more like a mace with an axe head. The Sagaris. The Greeks used the kopis, which was a sword-like axe, and the Egyptians used an Egyptian version of the kopis, which was a sort of hook-shaped thing, which has the ability to go over the top of a shield. So you could put it over the enemy's shield and hit him in the head, because it was curled. Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm waiting for you to speak.
The thing is though, even Greeks, Egyptians, they all have small-scale armies, so when you fight the Persians, you're not going to win, regardless what happens.
The Persians end up having weight of numbers, yes.
Yeah, you just get slaughtered anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the Persians had 40,000 immortals permanently. That's a permanent standing army of elite troops. No other nation on earth had that. A standing army of 40,000 men. I mean, theoretically, 40,000 immortals with support infantry would be able to defeat anybody in any normal war. And perhaps had the Persians thought about it before they actually went to war with Greece, small units might have done better against the Greeks than trying to send the entire army. The problem that the Persians have is wherever they chose to fight a battle, they ended up sort of funneling their troops so they weren't allowed to use their weight of numbers.
I'd just pick them off.
Yeah, if you
If I
got...
was Xerxes, I'd pick off playing the pearly gates, is that called? Black gates?
Pearly gates? No, that's not... the black gates is from Lord of the Rings. The hot gates.
The hot gates?
Yes,
yeah.
the most contested gates.
I would just send someone to pick them off one by one.
I would have avoided that battle in total. I would have gone round. The long way.
Xerxes said he didn't have any time.
He didn't. That's true.
So
He was up against it, and he had to end the war quickly. And he hoped that simply taking the gates would mean Athens would surrender.
they did.
Well, the Athenians got in boats and left.
Because
And the people behind them surrendered and they were massacred by Xerxes.
Yeah. Because Xerxes was angry.
Yeah, well, he had reasons to be angry. I mean, the Greeks were very, very annoying. Imagine having a really annoying neighbour who's really annoying and is just constantly annoying. And whenever you get into an argument with someone on the street who's parked outside your driveway so you can't get out, your neighbour has to come out and join in every single time you have an argument. Every time you have a barbecue, your neighbour has to come round and eat all your sausages. Every single time, yeah. It would get really annoying having Greece as a neighbour. Even if you're the Persian Empire, the Greeks are just so annoying because they're very small, but they seem to have a really wide, varied effect on your empire.
No, you just make them a big problem. If you just ignored them.
Yes, if you'd ignored the Greeks would probably have got bored.
or just invaded them there and then without them knowing. You could have come off guard and slaughtered all the Greeks.
Well, maybe what Xerxes should have done, or Darius actually before it, is when the Greeks began to be a problem, just ignore them. Don't have anything to do with them. Refuse to trade. Just say, oh no, we don't want to buy anything off you, we're not interested. No, silver, yeah, no, you got silver, we're not really interested. Don't care really, not interested. And just don't trade with them. And eventually the Greeks, being traders, would have come cap in hand to the Persians saying, do you want to buy our stuff?
No.
They might have done. No, that might have worked. I mean, if the Persians put more money into their trade fleets, that could have worked. You could have defeated the Greeks economically. As it was, the Greeks defeated the Persians economically by sinking all their trade ships. So the Persians just were not equipped for asymmetrical warfare. They were equipped for going on a battlefield and fighting the enemy and burning their cities. The Greeks weren't really interested in that style of warfare. The Greeks would think nothing to deserting their entire land, just leaving the country entirely and just going somewhere else just to annoy the Persians. Because they knew that in the end the Persians couldn't keep troops in the field that long and would have to go home, and the Greeks could just go home, which is exactly what the Greeks did. But the Persians sillily, is that a word?
No.
The Persians stupidly decided to try and fight the Greeks and lost their navy. The Greeks destroyed them. But again, who could have suspected the Greeks could have done it? Yeah, and it's just bad for the Persians. And I feel sorry for them really, because they were genuinely trying to build a universal empire where everybody's in it, you've got no enemies because everyone's part of the empire, and you all just live in peace and pay large amounts of taxes.
You see,
But
my problem with this era of warfare, I find it hard to believe most of the stories. Because it's written by the winner, and the winner's going to exaggerate it no matter what.
oh, we know that, but we also know that Persia, at the same time as the Greeks are telling their stories, turned inwards on itself. You look at the depictions
It doesn't mean anything though, does it? It could be Civil War could have sprung at the exact same time.
Civil War did. That's
There
what
you go
caused
then.
Civil
It
War.
doesn't count.
With the Babylonians revolted, Egypt revolted. It's just the Persians were just fighting fires all over the place.
And it fits well for the Greeks saying that, oh yeah, we were involved in the Babylonians. Oh yeah, we were involved in the Egyptians over there.
Yeah, there is an element that could be added in that.
Oh yeah,
But-
we slaughtered this entire Persian fleet.
which they did.
You don't know that.
Well, everybody agrees, even the Persians agreed.
Was
that
it
the
recorded?
fleet- yes.
Well, the pictures.
There were no one with a camera.
Precisely.
But we know the Persians, we have the numbers of ships. We know how many men were involved. And it was just terrible for the Persians. But the Persian Empire, certainly after they Persia or Greek War, the Persians turned very inwards. They began to put a lot of money into the imperial palaces and things. And there's pictures of on the murals on the walls of people being brought from all over the Persian Empire to give presents to the Persian kings, and each of them has a guard with them. Every single visitor is depicted with an immortal in full gear stood next to them. That kind of indicates that the Persians were worried about their own subjects. They needed to guard their own subjects. Also, the palace was more fortified than it had done before. They did a lot of building work on defence. So the empire is looking inwards, not outwards. And let's face it, the Persians didn't expand after that. They carried on for quite a while until Alexander eventually crushed them. But, yeah. Anyway, any more questions?
No?
No? So that's the end of the video.
So if you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe and comment down below what you think of the Mede infantry. That's everything from me.
And everything from him. Goodbye.